And good evening, and welcome to the Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back for another fun-filled week of talking about Soul Citizens. And we have our illustrious panel here today. Let's see, who haven't we seen in a while? I'm going to start out with the guy who's been here. Well, you two at the top, you guys have been here recently. So let me start out with TenthSigma from Ep.37. How you doing, buddy?
You're muted.
Yep, you're muted. That's how he's doing. He's muted.
I'm muted. That's exactly how I'm doing. No, doing well. Happy to be back, man. It's always a pleasure sitting here with you fellas. So it should be a good show tonight.
Thank you, man. You've been doing okay. Everything's going good out on the West Coast out there. Y'all holding
West
it down.
Coast, yeah, nothing's burning. The air quality's good. At least for right now.
At least for right now, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, let's swing from the West Coast to the East Coast. Kimmy, 65. How are you, man?
East Coast.
Pretty good, Griff.
Mm-hmm.
Good seeing you, 10th. Good seeing you, Fastcart. You as well, Griffin Gaming RPG. Glad to be here tonight.
Kimmy's the one guy who we can probably all be jealous of because he's in the southern part of the East Coast, which means he has the good weather. What's the temperature where you're at right now? I'm too scared to ask.
Mid-80s.
Ugh, hate you.
Mid-80s.
Hate you.
Oh, come on, man.
Hate you.
Flip-flops and shorts all day.
Oh, rub it in. Rub it in.
Okay. Move on.
Move on. Okay.
It's origin type weather.
Oh, there's a shot.
You can't hate it.
All
It's
right.
origin type weather, baby.
All right. Well, we're going to go to the Northeast. Yeah, we're going to go to the Northeast then. And let's, as always, the ambassador, Mr. Fastcart himself. What's happening, FC?
Currently in Boston, it's 49 degrees, mostly cloudy. No, I'm doing all right. How's everyone else doing? I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Yeah.
How's everyone in Twitch chat doing?
Yeah, how you guys doing in Twitch? I'm in the Midwest, guys. I'm in the wonderful city of Chicago, and it is, what is it today? I think it was like around 43 or something like that, 42. It's supposed to get down to 38 or something, and we've been hovering at that, like getting near freezing point off and on, so. I saw geese this week, so I think they were starting to migrate. I think it's about to finally change. I think it's about to finally. We're trying to hold on to a little bit of fall. Yeah, you want a little bit of fall, man, but it's just like, this whole COVID thing has just made, you know what I mean? Everything's just out of sync. You know what I mean? You don't feel like you had a summer. You don't feel like you had this. So it's just.
Oh, wait.
And this being 2020, I'm waiting for Turkzilla to come around in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we are back. And again, we want to welcome you guys who are here with us. We're just getting started. As you guys know, each month we have been taking on a subject of either ships or careers. And today we're going to be talking about support ships, and we have support ships 1. Believe it or not, CIG only identifies 6 ships as being support ships in the game, and I thought there were going to be more. I don't know if you guys thought that more would fall into that category. Yeah, but they identify 6 on their matrix as support. So we're going to talk about those today, and hopefully, I personally believe that, as the game continues to grow over the years, that there will be more support ships beyond the ones that we look at. But I will, at the end of the show, I didn't tell these guys this, I will probably ask them if there was another ship that they would throw into this category, what would it be? So you guys might want to think about that while we're plodding through the show. So let's talk about a couple things that are going on real quick. You guys know IAE is starting next Friday. We're a week away, with some folks call the anniversary sale. This is year 2950. It's being held at New Babbage and at the, is it Towson Center? Poston Center? I forget what the name of the center is. I think it's the Towson Center. I forget. But I went over there and checked it out. I flew over and looked at the building. It's a big circular building with different circular orbs around it. It's got this big yellow hologram over it. It's a pretty neat fly if you want to go over and check it out in the game. And of course, those of you know that in the PTU, they've had the floors open for folks to be able to go in and take a look and see the basics of what the place is going to look like for next week. Real quick, before we jump into the support thing, you guys looking forward to any particular ship or ships? Or are you waiting to see what CIG has to say? Anybody looking to buy anything? Fastcart?
I'm not looking to buy anything. I'm just looking for the new ship and trying to get more information about it before I make any decision. But I have access to some store credit of her melt some stuff, but I'm not looking to put any. on anything.
Okay. Kimmy, how about you?
Oh, like basically, LTI tokens are lined up, and just waiting to see what comes down the pipeline. But I'm definitely curious about this refinery ship.
Okay.
They're talking about.
Okay. Is there anything that's already out that you're looking at, or are you pretty much just looking for if something new comes out?
Definitely something new. I'm kind of on the fence with a Cuddy Black, but I'm leaning a little bit more to the RSI Taurus. If we ever get something like that, that would be cool. But yeah, I'm just gonna see how the chips fall and go from there.
Mm-hmm. If fastcart, we go say something.
I may refresh some of my tokens because I have a few that have 6 years insurance, and I may refresh them to 10 years or whatever they had this year.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's an idea. Okay. Tenth, how about you?
Yeah, no, I'm with Kimmy. Probably just keeping my eye out for anything that shows up that's new. My fleet has been semi-solid since the last AIE, so I didn't set anything aside to say, yo, I'm looking to get this. It's more so if something pops up, evaluate it and see if it is a fit for the fleet, and then kind of move on from there. But I'd be curious to see what happens this year, given the fact as well. I don't know if we're going to talk about this. Given the fact there wasn't a Citizen Con, kind of thinking on.
There wasn't.
There wasn't. Fastcart, did you miss it? Oh man, let me tell you. But stuff like what kind of things might CIG have up their sleeves? Not necessarily maybe ships, but who knows? But I'm just gonna keep my eyes open.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm thinking about venturing into waters that I had considered previously. I'll direct this toward 10th. When I had to choose between the Pioneer, the Endeavor, or the 890, you know what the obvious solution was, right? You know what the obvious pick was, right? And so I'm considering the base Endeavor. I'm considering that. What I might do is melt. I have a Cutlass Red and a Cutlass Black, and I kind of, you guys have heard me say this. I have a general rule that about a year and a half ago, I decided that anything that was less than $300, I would melt it. So those would be items I would work for in game, because I'm not into the long grind. I'm not going to grind for an Endeavor. You know what I mean? And so, what fastcart?
May I make a suggestion? If you're just on the fence about the Endeavor and not really sure, I would just wait, because the Endeavor may not even come out.
No. I'm not on the fence. I'm not on the fence about the Endeavor. I was on the fence of which one I was going to buy at that time. I've always wanted those 3 ships. Actually, there's 4 ships I want, to be honest with you, fastcart. I actually want the Nautilus as well. I had actually bought the Nautilus. But the one that I want to go, Ops Cheap says the master said or nothing. Yeah, okay, man. Be sure to send your credit card over, and I'll do that. But no, I think that's going to be my entry into it. And for that reason, fastcart, there's no reason for me to go with everything right off the bat. But if I melt the Cutlass Red and Black, that moves me out of those ships that are under $300. I get the Endeavor base, which I think is $350. And then, as you said, over time, I can get the other modules as time goes by, even if I want to work for them, but even if I want to buy them later. So that might be the only major thing that I go for this time around. I'm going to have to bite my tongue, though, and wait till the end of the week, because I'm also afraid that if I buy something too soon, come the week later, something's going to come up, and I'm going to be like, dag, I should have waited. So I think I'm going to wait till the very end before I do anything.
It's not about what we got. It's what you're going to give us. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, you know what, Ops Chief, if you're working out a deal, then we can talk, brother. I'll hit your buyback in a minute if you talk about cutting a couple $100 off, But yeah, we'll see. But anyway, so guys, don't forget IAE, and we're talking about ships and purchases, but we still want to emphasize this thing about if you're doing this, do it because you're backing the game. And we cannot say that, overstate that. Most of us have been in this game for a very, very long time, years, and so what we do have in the fleet has been accumulated over time. I don't think any of us are at that point where when a sale comes up, we just automatically have to buy something. But I think for most of us, we're either trying to fill out our fleet for the things that we feel that when the game starts we can get into, and then other ships we're all willing to work for. And fastcart has definitely held his line. He said, these are the ones I got unless the band new come out with a brand new something, I'm not buying nothing else. That's pretty much his attitude.
I've been saying my last ship was the vehicle with the Ranger. That's the last one I put money on. So that was like 2019, summer of 2019 or something like that. So yeah, it's been a while.
Well, Rolo, you are a man of impeccable taste and dear work, because that's a lot of grinding, bro. If you, I mean, and hey, you willing to put it in, hey, the reward will be even better if you put that time in to get a ship like that, because that is no joke. But hey, it's a goal. Yeah, it's a goal. If he's gonna go for it, I ain't mad at him. That's a serious goal.
That's it.
Okay. Well, listen, let's jump into this whole thing about support ships, guys. When we talk about support, we're talking about, and we want to differentiate. I think I mentioned to you, there are only so many ships that CIG designs or designates, I should say, as support. The other category that some of the ships that I thought would have been support fell into the category of industrial. I was sharing with the guys earlier that ships like the SRV, the tow truck, I honestly thought that would have fallen under support, but it didn't. And so, anyway, the ones we're going to look at tonight, we're going to take a look at some of these, and I'm doing them in alphabetical order, weirdly enough, guys. So there's no real method to the madness here. That did not come up correctly. Let's see. Why did that not come up correctly? What is that supposed to be? Is that who we blame for that?
Yeah, blame Kimmy.
I've got it.
Speaking of support, I want to just say this. It's kind of funny that you mentioned the RSV Griff, but the functionality is support in a sense, or providing a service. If I think I guess the narrative can change when you say if it's in your org, then it becomes a support ship, because let's say, for example, you have a Idris, and you don't just change out an Idris or just say, okay, I'm going to nix it, and then you wait for it to get built again. If you're in an org and you have these, of course they said it takes like 2 or 3 of these RSVs to actually tow it in. You're going to need that ship to tow that Idris into a dry dock to get the correct repairs done on it. So in that sense of it being in an org and it's providing that service, I see it as support. It's kind of a gray area for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, hopefully this will work this time. I had something that wasn't clicked on correctly, so let's see if this works. This is going to be a video that we're going to see on the Apollo, guys, so just kind of go with the flow on this. All you medical people.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another edition of Ship Shape, the show where we give you the rundown on what's in the ship development pipeline, who's working on what, provide interviews with developers, and occasionally give you a brand new ship being added to Star Citizen.
That's what a beard will do to you.
Careful, he might be watching fastcart.
Content manager Jared Huckabee. Now, behind me, you see the ship pipeline. That's the ever-evolving, continuously refined network of phases, milestones, and review checks necessary to ensure you the best possible spaceship for your Star Citizen experience. And it's been a while since we've given the full rundown on what's being worked on and where. So let's get things started and jump right into things, shall we? With the recent release of Star Citizen Alpha 3.2 to our live environment, a new wave of ships have begun their journeys through the pipeline. It's with that news that I'm pleased to report that the Origin 300 series, stalwart of the original Kickstarter campaign, has officially begun its rework and is currently sitting in the earliest stages of white box phase, where it's not alone. Keeping it company is the Banu Defender and the luxurious 890 Jump. Now, on last week's ATV, Chris gave you a few moments sneak peek at the early white box for the 890 Jump, but I think we can do better. Here's a further look at work being done to flesh out the interior layout.
Real good memories, Tenth. Real good memories.
Yacht.
Oh, yeah.
Now, white box phase is as crucial a phase as any in the development of a ship, as it will form the basis of everything that comes afterwards. It's our chance for designers and artists to work together to determine the foundation of a ship's interior layout, and can go through dozens of iterations before moving into gray box phase. What you're seeing here is just one such iteration of the 890 Jump white box. And while it is yet to be determined if this layout will be the one that gets the green light, we thought it'd be fun to highlight this early, very malleable stage of a ship's overall development for you. Plus, I know how long you've been waiting for this. Now you can expect additional updates in the months ahead as we move towards its
for real.
intended release into the Star Citizen universe in the upcoming Alpha 3.5, currently scheduled for Q1 2019. Moving along to Greybox phase, we have another announcement I'm very pleased to make. You think I'm gonna miss this opportunity to give you the max update on another fan favorite ship? Durr.
Ugh.
No, I wouldn't. Yes, Virginia, it's true. The ship team in the
That
UK
was
has
rough.
begun their work on the freelancer
That was terrible.
variants, which, because of the head start the already flyable freelancer base model gives them, are beginning their journey ahead of White Box and already well into the Gray Box modeling phase. Yes, it's an exciting time to be a freelancer owner, and we'll be following the development of these ships throughout their intended journey towards release in Alpha 3.4 towards the end of this year. Now, following
You're
ahead
just
to the
Griff.
final art phase, we got a couple ships like the F-8,
I don't know.
which is
I
currently
forgot.
holding as it waits for resources in other disciplines to continue its journey. The Mustang variants, which have moved back from the technical disciplines to the final modeling and surface tweak stage as the team in our Los Angeles studio addresses recent feedback from Chris. The Hammerhead, which takes its place moving ahead into the technical disciplines, where it will reside for quite some time as teams work to bring functionality to all their fantastic art. And then the 600i Touring variant, which is waiting for tech setup resources to become available. It's a busy time for our ship pipeline as 3.3, 3.4, and even 3.5 ships continue their journeys towards a full and complete realization into the Star Citizen universe.
2 years
But
ago.
what's next? Even a game
now.
of Star Citizen's breadth and scope still needs additional ships to flesh out its various gameplay
July.
systems and professions. And one of those that's captured the imagination of backers since the introductions of the Cutlass Red and Endeavor Hope is that of assisting your fellow player when personal injury strikes your character. Yes, medical gameplay and its design is ready to step back into the spotlight this month with the addition of our next concept ship to Star Citizen. Let's go to the ship teams in our Foundry 42 UK studio and let them introduce us to the brand new Apollo medical ship from Robert Space.
The RSI Apollo is a new medical ship. It's from RSI, which didn't get a new ship in a long while. We have 2 medical ships at the moment announced in the game, which is the Cutlass Red, which is basically the ambulance in our game, and the Endeavor with its hospital module, which is really massive and really endgame. So we needed something in between.
We had quite
Ship is
a
huge,
short
man.
timeline on this one for a medium ship. So really early on, I did a quick sketch of the interior, passed it to concept artist and was like, something like this, and it kind of stuck basically. And it works well with RSI styling. The ship still has its flow, you know, it's still quite sleek and sexy, but you know, it's got all that angularness to it. It's like a Lamborghini, turn it into a spaceship.
The RSI Apollo is basically like a small clinic that you can go to the edge of space. This has a capacity of 6 patients with 6 beds, a crew of 2 at the front with 2 ejection beds, and it has a size 2 turret on the top of the ship at the rear, which is more a point defense turret rather than something made for dogfights or anything. And this is a remote turret. It has also 28 SCU of cargo at the back.
And then you've got medical bay space. It's always that sort of fine line between sort of reality sci-fi and gameplay. So it's, okay, we need to basically spawn a player here, but we don't want him popping in. So the player will be delivered. There's a glass cover on top, sort of protecting the player. The thought process is that we'll have essentially like an opaque glass when there's nobody in it, and then you'll hear noises and probably lights will come on, and the bed will activate, and then a person will arrive. The glass turns transparent, and you're like, okay, that, you know, the bed's occupied. At least that's how we've developed it at the moment. It's kind of like a self-healing unit, so you'll have a disc that scans the person, finds out what's wrong with them, heals them, and then it opens up and off they go. And so with this ship, you'll be able to pick up people, fix people up, shove them back out the door, you know, so it can be, you know, obviously there'll be medical gameplay.
That we plan is, even if regular ships can do something with medical gameplay, like a player could help other people in the future, you will need medical ships if you want really to pursue the medical career in the game.
the final result I'm really happy with, and it's just sort of going through it basically, and so that's just been a process of refinement, just pushing and okay, add this, tweak this, you know, all the lines. Generally, you know, you generally try and avoid parallel lines.
We've worked hard to do a good layout that will please every player and that is really aesthetically pleasing as well. So I think this is a really good ship, and this is bringing new kind of gameplay, so it looks good.
Do you know what? I kind of like playing the medic often. So, you know, I'm not quite sure how this will turn out in our game, you know, but I just want to see it. Just want to see it in game, and just, you know, I just want to see what players do with it. But I think, you know, I can't wait to see, you know, it's not going to be like the Red Arrows, but you can just imagine, you know, just a whole fleet of these guys just taking off and just going off, just rescuing people, or you know, you can imagine just jumping in, massive space battle, debris everywhere, bodies just sort of floating about, you know, and then just in, you know, all the drones just popping out, and scooping up the people and popping them into the base of the ship. I think it could make for a really nice visual as well.
I got a slight problem with what Paul said at the end there. Yeah, it sounded more like if you come to a battle zone and there's bodies floating in space, it's going to be more of a mortuary than it is a hospital ship. I mean, unless you're in your spacesuit, now maybe, but you know, maybe that's what he meant. You know, if you're sitting out there with your spacesuit on, you'll be all right. But anyway, you guys give us some feedback on this particular ship. We know that they mentioned that there's these 3 different levels for folks going into the medical career. The Cutlass Red, which is the ship we're going to be talking about in a little bit. And then this Apollo they came up with. They said they wanted something that was kind of in between the Cutlass and Red and the Endeavor. Kimmy, give me some thoughts real quick on the practicality of this ship. You know, 6 beds, medical crew. What do you think about it?
I think it's kind of, well, first of all, because of, you know, I'm looking at how does this parallel with Squadron 42, and I was thinking that at some point we would have seen, well, we do see the Cutlass Red, and I'm thinking, well, if the other 2 were in Squadron 42, we would think at some point we would see it come down the pipeline, or it's going to be there or not. That was just one of those things in my mind. But with the Apollo, the 6 beds, you can really collect some bodies. I mean, you can really look out for catastrophic battles. You can kind of tune, or maybe missions will be tuned to that capability of having 6 members in that ship. So I would imagine that the mission giver would be attuned to that, especially when we're talking about iCache, and now they can actually use that data to generate these missions now, right? So imagine having a number of injuries on these larger ships, whether it's a Hammerhead or an Idris. iCache will kind of, with like similar to Death of the Spaceman, they can take those metrics and send it as mission givers. So yeah, death is profitable. Or near death is profitable.
Near death is profitable. Yeah, yeah.
And 6 bodies, that's cash, man. That is cash.
Okay.
Fill them beds up. Fill those beds up. That's how I see it.
Okay. Now, 10th, if I'm remembering correctly, on this particular ship, and chat, you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this. This ship is a ship that will carry level 2. It can carry level 1 or level 2 tier beds. If you decide, I'm sorry, let me say it. I'm saying it backwards. It carries level 2 and level 3 tiered levels, 2 and 3. And if you want the tier 1 bed, which is the one that literally brings you back, you have to lose a couple of the beds on this ship in order to install it. Unlike the Cutlass Red, which is kind of described as more of an ambulance, this kind of is described more as like of a triage unit until you get to another space. Do you think that this is kind of like the ship that medical people are looking forward to being in? Like, will more people doing medical be in this? Or do you think there'll be, you know, Cutlass Red in this one? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that the way that CIG is thinking about how people progress through careers is that many people who want to, you know, might get introduced to the game when it releases, or just get introduced to the game now, might start off in a red, because they want to do that medical gameplay, right? They want to, it's kind of like the get your hands dirty with all the ambulance runs and the rescue calls. Once we get all that stuff in the game, and then this still you might work into, or you might find an org that has a couple of these Apollos running around, and you might have a shift where if you're thinking about an org that's pretty hardcore, you might be on the Cutlass Red unit for a week or two or for a season, and you might put in, especially a triage, and be on an Apollo outfitted with 6 of these beds, or all tier 1, or some combination of both of them, and you get to experience that side of med gameplay. So I think the idea still remains, and you go back to the foundation of what CIG wants to accomplish, in that multi-crew, multiplayer gameplay is kind of the top of their deal when they're creating this massive universe. And you are more than capable of running a Cutlass Red and doing that as your entire deal. But if you want to experience that next tier, you're going to go up to the triage and the Apollo, and be able to, even if you fitted it with NPCs or whatever the case would be, it still gives this aspect of more well-rounded, more opportunity perhaps, and maybe a different experience than just, say, getting in a red and flying around, which is equally as fun. So just to wrap it up, I like the balance, and I think that many medical people are going to find themselves somewhere between a red, a Cutlass Red, the Apollo, and the Endeavor, as part of their Star Citizen career at some point, if they're really in depth with it.
It's very, very cool. So, Fastcart, let me throw this question at you. and both Rolo and Shady mentioned about that the Cutlass Red is basically a base ship. And I'm going to come back to talk about that one a little bit, because I got a real tough question in relation to when we get to the Cutlass Red. Tenth mentioned the fact that there's a progression, right? This is more like like most paramedics, right? They get basic certification. You can be a paramedic, right? But if you want to go deeper, then maybe you're moving up into something like the Apollo. I thought it was interesting that RSI, of all the manufacturers, was the one that kind of came up with this. Because in fact, all of the medical ships are under different manufacturers, right? Misk has the Endeavor, Drake has got the Cuddy Red. This ship there's a variant of it. There's another one that is much more armored, and the weapons are a little bit more powerful.
The red.
The red one. Thank you, Kimmy. Versus the white one, which is the more standard one. Do you think that? And I'm saying this because of one of the other ships that we're going to be looking at, such as the Starfarer, where we've got the Gemini and the Starfarer, where there's this distinction between ships that have a little more armament and weaponry. Do you think that that's going to make a big difference? Will most people by default go with the one that they feel has the defensive capability? Or do you think that, because sometimes there's a trade-off, it might be speed, it might be cargo capacity. Do you think that it makes a difference whether there's a more militarized version of these ships versus the quote-unquote civilian version of them?
Big difference.
I think it may depend on where they intend to operate. If we intend to operate in pirate space or unlawful space, they probably get the more armored version. If they tend to be in more safer space, they might get the more specialized and less armored version.
Okay.
But who knows? It may depend on their budget. It may depend on their need. But I mean that's my generalized opinion. But like you said, I am surprised how the RSI is coming up with, and I'm very surprised Drake came up with a medical ship. But dealing with the previous question, I wrote down, I think the Apollo will have actual emergency workers, where the Cutlass Red will have ambulance chasers. Also, I wonder what is up with the naming scheme. So why can't they call the Apollo the Constellation Red instead of the Apollo? But who knows?
Good point. What are you gonna say, Tenth?
No, I got to piggyback off of Fastcart. I mean, as somebody who's helping put stuff together for orgs, as all of us do, you gotta consider the cost of this, right? Because if you're just for instance, I think someone was telling me that there's actually an org out there that's full of just medical professionals, right, for the game, right? And so all doctors, and really cool. But then when you think about how you might outfit a contingent, you might have to have a whole fleet of Apollos that have the different outfits. You know, you might send the ones that are more armored over to this kind of environment, and you might send the other ones that are more privatized versions of, you know, of the less armored and more privatized, right? And so I'm always in with this particular deal. I got to jog over to Cyberpunk a little bit, but I'm fascinated by the gameplay, the medical system in that game, at least when it comes to kind of death and dying in Cyberpunk 2077, because if you pay for higher tier like health coverage, you get almost instant, you know, service when you get into a sick situation or die or anything like that.
Don't give Chris Roberts any more ideas. I don't want him to bring that.
Hey, let me tell you though, like, it's so cool because if organizations decided to have, maybe even if it wasn't a system in the game, you know, but if organizations decided to kind of privatize that kind of service, that could be a real boon. You know, especially if you can figure out how to station people or station units in a where there might be a lot of activity. You can get there really fast and charge, you know, for that, especially if you have an Apollo, or excuse me, a Cutlass Red. So yeah, I was just piggybacking off of you, FC, but yeah, I don't want to give a good old CR any more tricks to put in the book.
Pramster, thank you for the point that you mentioned here, and maybe you guys can help me. I'm trying to look at the website. You're absolutely right. First off, Pramster gave me a correction here. These two ships are actually designated slightly different. The red one is called the Apollo Triage, and the white one is called the Apollo Medevac. Okay. Even though they're both support medical, they both fall in that category of support medical. But what I haven't figured out is the complete distinction behind weapons, because he mentions that the white, as he says here, the white one, the medevac one, and the red one, the triage one. The medevac has the missiles and the Gatling in it. He says that's what the difference is in those two ships. Yes. But I'm still curious as to why did they change them from triage and medevac. I'm still. And maybe somebody can give me some enlightenment there.
Like triage, you're talking about being able to have in-depth. Let's say if you're able to save, when you think of the term triage, you're able to save the person right there on the spot. It gives you have the equipment and the ability to do that. But when you're talking about medevac and you look at the terms of that definition, it means get that person to an endeavor as quickly as possible, or a hospital facility. It has the speed to get there, because then it's at a point that their injuries are pretty much close to death of the spaceman. So timing would be everything in that regard.
I would agree, and I don't disagree with your definition, but when you look at the specs on the ships are identical other than weaponry. And so I'm just kind of curious. Hey, Pramster. Oh, man, 3 months of subscriptions. Thank you, dude. We really appreciate that. Holy moly.
Keep in mind.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
But the specs on the ships are the same. The specs on the ship are the same. The beds.
The specs. But then when you look at the compartments, then there's functionality that could be differences. Maybe with the medevac, you can be held in stasis or frozen until you can get that person to the hospital. Whereas triage, think of capabilities. It has the equipment to actually perform some sort of operation or apply medicinal help to that person. So I'm just thinking of those variations there. I'm just throwing it out there that it would be very compelling gameplay in that aspect of holding a person in stasis and getting there and keep them, stabilizing them basically. Whereas the other one, you're capable to administer medical help.
And I'm gonna agree with you again. I'm also going to say that's theory crafting, because there's nothing in the description that says that's there. And I agree. No, I think that what you're saying would be awesome. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is based upon what the website is showing. And the website shows everything is the same. There's no difference in which beds they have, the tiering, except the weapons, and that's it. So hopefully, Kimmy, you're right. Hopefully there is some actual distinction even at that level, because that would be really cool, because then it makes sense why one ship would be much more, going into a war zone type of thing, right? Versus another one that might be responding to an industrial accident. You know what I mean? It definitely distinguishes the difference between the two. We're going to say fast cart. Let fast cart. Yeah, go ahead. Let fast cart jump in. Go fast cart.
Okay, I was gonna say they're both the same price, or out of game and in game. I don't see why people would.
No, they were two different prices.
Not the same.
They were two different prices.
What is it?
I forget what the price was. Anybody remember in the chat? Because I remember they were two different prices.
Didn't you have to unlock
Go ahead, Kimmy.
one of them? Right?
What did you say, Skip?
Okay, go ahead, guys.
Tenth was asking, didn't you have to do something?
No, I just didn't you have to unlock one of the variants?
With the game?
The game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You had
Okay.
to drop
The medevac was $10 or $15 more, he says.
People.
Yeah, he says that the
Yeah.
medevac did cost a little bit more. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
minigame.
if it's only that little, I would see people buying the medevac more than the triage one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a lot more in game or whatnot. I would see people try and get the triage maybe, but I think people probably venture go more to the medevac.
Well, here's the stupid part. The medevac, believe it or not, the medevac is the one that has the weaponry in it. Now, this is what they do say about it. They said that medevac model pays homage to the classic 2910 film Astromedics. So that's the only distinction that they mentioned about that. And of course, it's white instead of red. So, and I agree. I think I like Kimmy's idea. I think if they come up with actual game mechanic reasons for the two different ships, because again, I'm just wondering, why do we understand why. Same thing when we talked about the Starfarer and the Gemini, right? We understand that there's a reason why those two different ships would be used. So I'm hoping, like he said, that beyond weaponry, that even the medical functionality of the ship stands out in some different way. I think it's a great point. Can you want to say one more thing, and we're going to move on?
Yeah. It's under the descriptions, it gives those distinctions, and you alluded to, Griff. It says that the medevac model pays homage to the classic 2910 film Astromedics, Back from the Brink, with livery that accurately recreates the headlining Cathara. That's the white. And then with the triage, it's basically saying right here, Space RSI Industries, the gold standard in medevac and rapid emergency response, having provided critical aid to the known universe for well over 2 centuries. So yeah, they can provide, administer critical aid right there inside the ship.
Okay.
So it gives you basic differences right there. So it leads to tend to believe that in their compartments, you're going to see those variations.
Well, again, theory crafting, but okay.
Well, I'm taking the description.
That's good. There's nothing.
Distinction there.
No. Let's read the description since you said it. I'm not seeing anything in that description that says functionality wise those ships are different. I see two different descriptions. I see a bunch of talk about their impact on the galaxy, but I don't see nothing about saying this ship is better at this and this ship does this. That's what I don't see. Okay, we can agree to disagree.
Now I only went with the red because it has the defenses, right?
No, the white one has the defenses. That's why I'm telling you. See, that's what's weird about it. It's the white one that has the guns and stuff.
I went with the one with the defenses.
Okay.
Capabilities.
Fair enough.
Because I knew if I was going to save someone, it's more than likely it's going to be a hot zone or someone camping out waiting. So I'm not with the one that's going to help provide defense, because that's not a fighter ship.
Well, I'm not rich like you. I don't have $15, so I went with the red one. I needed my $15. I needed my $15.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and Rolo does mention the other difference. That is the other trade-off. The red one is faster than the white one, and that makes sense because with all the ships, whenever they have the better defenses, they either suffer in speed or cargo. So that makes perfect sense. Okay, all good stuff, guys. All right, let's jump into the next one.
Wait, real quick. I think Rolo might have been joking about red, because red makes everything faster. He's been joking about that.
Oh no, that's not gonna get you an AND.
Actually, no, it is. He's not joking. It is faster. Believe it or not. One's 205, one's 195. Yep. Okay, let's jump into this next ship, and this is another ship that, one of those ones that we heard about, but you don't hear very much about. Crucible. Yeah.
That's my baby right there.
And do you own one, Kimmy?
Yes,
I don't own. Oh, you do? Okay. I've got one in one of my packages, but I hate to say it. I was really excited about it when I got it, and then I decided to upgrade it to a C2 and then to an M2. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to keep that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. As long as you got a discount coming with it, that's cool. Okay. Let's jump. Now we're going to go back a few years on this one, guys. It's been quite a while since they've talked about the Crucible. Colossal says keep it. It's been quite a while since they've talked about the Crucible. So let's see what take you back to this. I'm gonna have to start this in the right spot because it's not starting where it should be. Give me 1 second.
The reason why this would be rotating is we have
As early as the sausage is being made.
arrays actually will move like so.
Sorry about this, guys. I thought I had it at the beginning, but evidently I was zoning out.
Very.
Ooh, shit.
Loved it.
On this episode of Ship Shape, we're sitting down once again with technical designer Randy Vasquez, who's going to take us through the very, very early white box of the Crucible interior. Randy, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you? So
Good. Good. You ready to do this one more time?
let's do this.
All right.
Today we'll be looking at the Crucible, and kind of you can see right here, this is the kind of overall layout of the Crucible itself. So let's actually get you in. Actually, let me go to this real quick. So this kind of just breaks down the levels and layers of the Crucible. Again, this is really early concept, really early on, just designs in general. So we're gonna go ahead and close that out and then jump in game.
All right.
So kind of what I've been working on is just building out the interior layouts. This is about maybe a week or so, maybe a little bit more
You haven't been on
into
this
the
very
process.
long.
No.
This is very early in the process.
It really is, and this kind of touches some salvage, it touches repair, and probably a few other systems we can't talk about yet. So we're gonna get into it. So as you can see here, we're gonna go ahead and enter through the rear ramp, and this is gonna be kind of where ships are inside of it. So single-seater ships will be sitting inside of this thing.
Hornets, Gladius.
Yeah,
Three
things like
Foot
that,
Eye.
smaller ships that can be repaired internally. As you can see, as we first enter into this area, we have some cargo, we have where equipment would be, we have some cranes and everything set up so that way like arms can come out and kind of operate in that area.
Okay.
So as we continue through, we can see that we have some repair pumps, we have some fuel pumps, we have coolant pumps, so anything that ship would need to also help with refitting and resupplying. So that will also be a function of this type of ship. Now, since they're going to start on the bottom, we're going to look at we have some components on the sides, we have some airlock entryways. Basically, every single entry into the ship from the outside is going to be an airlock. Just because being a repair ship, they need to be able to get in and out of the ship at any time. So you'll also be seeing a lot of personal storages around the area, so that way they can put on suits and have equipment right there and they can re-equip right before they exit the door.
This work area it's not open like this, it has doors. So
Yes, it'll actually be enclosed that can actually open up as well.
That's just another reason for the airlocks, because yeah, exactly. All right.
Yeah, some of this stuff is going to be actually open to space, while others are not going to be open to space. And we're still very much on designing a lot of the exterior as well as the interior at the same time. It's actually been really cool. Ryan Church is the one working on this ship, and he's done some awesome work. So if you look up his stuff, you'll be able to see some of the stuff he's contributed to.
Constellation, Idris.
Yeah, not even just us, like his other work is pretty awesome. I mean,
He's kind of good.
he kind of knows how to do things. So this whole area is actually a module that can come in and out, or detach and be attached. So actually, these stations up here are actually part of the module that come off. So these are going to be the internal arm operators that will actually be able to get into the rest of the ship as well. And those arm operators will be taking care of like these cranes that are built along the sides, and then they'll be kind of manipulating them. So let's get inside the ship.
Okay.
So everything, like I said before, everything has airlocks. We have 2 entryways on either side. Ideally, I kind of see it working kind of like how like a kitchen crew would work, where they go in one door and they only exit the other door, so that way the crew is always trained to kind of do that. It kind of makes sense flow-wise, right? Like if the crew is trained that way, then it just makes it easier. Like, all right, I'm entering. You never have to worry about yelling, make a hole, and then everybody kind of get congested.
Exactly.
Now this middle area right here is an airlock that is actually an elevator. So like the Constellation, you know how the middle part of the Constellation kind of just drops down so that people can load stuff on? So that kind of follows suit, actually. As you see here, I have 36 SCU that's able to go on this elevator, and this will be able to load things. What is this? Oh, it's another entry. So this will be an entryway, like elevator for personnel, and then they enter through here. As you can see, kind of just shares that space. So this first area is going to be, as it says, loading and storage. We could load storage here, we could have equipment here. It kind of depends on what the crew wants to do. And this is going to be where like EVA, suits, and everything is stored.
Okay.
Right? This central area is another elevator that is going to be serving the whole entire ship. So this will take you actually into the rest of the ship. So let's go up.
Okay, this is in the center of that cylindrical area. All right.
Yep. So going up, we have engineering. So engineering will have a lot more components and piping and everything to basically keep this ship running. So as you see here, we have like an engineering station, and this is where the engineer is going to basically have most of his job. So there's also right here a repair station where they're going to be going through and doing anything to get ready for preparing for repairs and everything like that. And you had mentioned that there's going to be actually a post soon.
Yeah, by the time folks see this, hopefully, there will be a detailed post on the repair system by our own Todd Pappy. So you'll get to read about repair gels and all this stuff that you have to do in preparation of repair.
Nice.
So that's what this station's for.
So in engineering, also, it connects through LX again, the internal arm operations, and I'm kind of just going to show both sides to show that they both kind of feed into this this area is meant so that you can get to multiple parts of the ship multiple ways. And then this is observation deck, and we're going to have hopefully some screens set up here so that way if anybody's walking around doing something like that, you can check the status. Kind of like when you're at the doctor's and like, you have the screen set up and be like, okay, this patient is set up like this.
Yeah.
It kind of has that type of like, we want that functionality.
Okay.
So hopefully like just information everywhere, right? It's a repair ship. People should know where the status of repairs are no matter where you are. So continuing on with engineering, we have components off to the wings, and this is going to be like where fuel is, where the coolants are, where ballast is. This is going to have like the drone launch bays for the front of the ship. We can go on this side as well. Again, feeds into the rooms, so that way personnel space. You can even get up to the other level above, which we'll talk about in a few seconds. So the one thing that's about this room is besides the drone launch, ballast and power and fuel and stuff, this is actually where the engine array works. So as you can see here, this is the engine array, and we have large engines, one top, one bottom, and this thing actually slides across a track. So basically this thing will slide over here or slide back here, and this is going to be based on the mass. So if the center of mass changes, then the engine's arrays actually will move based on where their center of mass is.
Gotcha. And this is because we're taking entire other ships
Yep.
into our hold.
Yep.
It's a little more than just cargo.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right.
Nope. So that is the main purpose. So when this needs to go in repair mode though, then basically this hole will line up with the center of the engine array.
Okay.
And then the player should be able to climb into it and then do your own repairs for your own ship if you need
Gotcha.
to. So that's kind of a unique thing for our game. We're not going to talk about drones for a while because that's going to be in another doc.
MD Brother, thank you for the follow.
Let's, instead of going to the elevator, let's go ahead and go up here now. So basically, we're up here now, and don't worry, a lot of these things you won't be able to see in the real ship. This is all just very much early on white box stuff. So
This is about the earliest white box you can have, guys. So
yeah, it's
you
pretty
said
early
you
on.
wanted to see how the sausage was made. This is as early as the sausage is being made here.
So this actually goes into the crew quarters, and 2 crew members would be sleeping in this area, and just some little lounge area for their own. And then if they want to read a book, they don't want to lay down or something like that. But each individual cruise pod will be its own dedicated escape pod as well. So if catastrophic failure happens, then they're able to jump in there and kind of get out of Dodge. So this is the crew common area where they would cook meals, they would eat, store food, kind of have like a little lounge where they can just chill and chat and stuff. Bathrooms, showers, all that stuff would be in this area right here. And then on the other side, more of the same. That way I kind of keep it separated a little bit.
Yeah.
So they can kind of have some privacy, but then still have like, you know, dorm mates. So let's go up to the last floor, which is the bridge.
Okay.
All right, so now the bridge is unique, right? In that it is meant to actually rotate.
Okay.
So we're still figuring out the designs, whether it's going to be the interior only rotating, or if it's going to be the whole entire top part rotating. And
Gotcha.
the reason why this would be rotating is we have 3 crew members up here, right? And each crew member can kind of change what they want to do on the job, right? So like the middle seat would be the pilot seat, dedicated pilot seat. And the other guys, they'd be doing arm operations, they would be doing drone operations, you know, so various functions would be handled by the guys on the side. As well as, you know, one could be a co-pilot, one could be helping out engineering. The engineering station is probably the main station that's doing just that, but then also the engineer would probably go over and take care of repair preparations and probably anything else they want to do, right? Even though this ship is only manned by 4 people, there's at least 7 stations on this thing.
Yeah,
So that way people will need to actually switch around, do different things. So this ship will keep people busy.
So you've got the arrows on the floor there. I should have guessed it was going to turn around.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're working on. So as we said before, airlocks everywhere. We have escape pods here, 2 more over here, so that way the crew can get out if they're either in the bridge or if they're in the crew quarters. So there's always something they can reach, right?
Gotcha.
So right here, this airlock actually will take them out to this area right here. So if there's something they need to get to really quickly, they can EVA out, and this is right on top of the observation deck. And again, they can kind of EVA out again and go down to different levels. People I see kind of swarming all over the place and kind of just going from there. So we kind of wanted to keep that as in it is a repair ship. It is meant to be entered and exited quickly, to be able to get to different areas, different levels really easily based on what the needs of the ship is.
Very cool.
So, I think Ryan had talked about things where the seats themselves are actually going to be on tracks. So based on what is happening with the ship, then basically you get better visibility. So like these things will be moving forward, or these things will be moving backwards. Like there's still a bunch of things that we have to work out and kind of go from there. So, and then once these things are turned over here, then this is the view that they'd be seeing. So they can kind of overview everything and look over everything. All right, so let's do something real quick. I want to show you guys kind of, this is what the ship kind of looks like when we have other ships. As you see, I started with some smaller ships, kind of placing them around inside here. I have like an Argo in there. I have some other things like the Constellation, the Retaliator, and we can kind of see with the thing open, these things can fit up to a point. And then that's when these arms kind of will unfurl and start doing some of the repair. So, and for even larger ships, drones and these repair arms will be used.
Gotcha.
So it really depends on the different type of repair that they will need to get done. They'll use different tools to repair it.
Gotcha. And so this is why you'd want the command module to rotate, because when you have such a large ship in here, the existing observation deck, when you end up looking at the underside of the Retaliator there.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So really quickly, I'm gonna actually turn on this thing so you guys can see, you guys get a good look of kind of what we've been working with and just building up right here. And let's go ahead and turn it on there. So now we can
Man, Chad is on the ball.
all
I
of
just
the
want to
stuff
thank you
fitting
guys.
inside the ship. So we've been kind of rebuilding the ship piece by piece, kind of just based on the functionality and where we kind of saw things fitting.
Very cool.
Oh,
like
one
those
thing we didn't
engines.
talk about was the turrets up top.
Turrets.
So all the turrets are going to be remote turrets. So that way, these people on the side right here, when they're not doing other things, they can actually turn into turret gunners, and without switching from their stations. Everything's going to be super modular, as in like people are going to be switching jobs really quickly on the ship just to kind of feed the need of the ship at that time.
Very cool.
And that is about it for this. I really hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, Randy. I don't think you said enough. We and everybody in the community appreciate you taking the time to do these for us. Yeah, this is an exciting ship. I think by the time people see this, the ship will be on sale already. You should have the design doc on repair from Todd Pappy. So yeah, it's an exciting ship, a whole new avenue of gameplay, and definitely excited to have it aboard.
Okay. Emphasis on the ship went on sale doesn't mean we're going to have it in our hands, obviously.
It's an endeavor. You have that ship right now.
Yeah. Now, I didn't tell you guys the reason why I decided to upgrade this ship, because remember I said I was really excited about having it. I started watching some of this, and I realized this is one of those ships where you're going to need 3 or 4 people. It's like that was the other reason why I didn't get the Endeavor, by the way, 10th, when I was debating between which ship, the ones I mentioned. Yeah. I think it's a great ship. But you can't go out here one man and do repair operations with this. Now, in the QA for this ship, they do talk about the fact that, you will be able to use NPCs, right? But the thing is, and Chris has always said this, and they say it in the Q&A, that NPCs do not work as efficiently as human players will. And there are plenty of people who really will get off on doing repair. I mean, this is something that they will want to do because it's lucrative. They can make money. Let me start out with fastcart this time. FC, right now in the game, there aren't too many instances where people's ships are disabled to the point where they have to ask for somebody to come get them, right? In most cases, their ships get destroyed. How long do you think it'll be before we start actually seeing things like this situation where your ship is disabled? And maybe it's when persistence goes into its full point. But right now, people know that they can just kill themselves, go back into the game and respawn. And as long as that's still in the game, the purpose for a ship like this really, isn't there. Right. Do you think it's going to be a long time before we see the Crucible finally come into the game? Or do you think that this is something that could get entered in, let's say, within the next year and a half? Do you think, or 2 years? Do you think it would be something?
2 years. I went ahead and looked at the ship matrix guide, and it said, according to the ship matrix guide, it says in concept complete, and that was 1 year ago. So they haven't touched that particular entry for a year. I put that in Twitch chat.
Thank you.
So yeah, so I think it's still a ways out. And I think it's going to be not a lot different, but it's going to be different from what we just shown. That video was over 5 years ago, and yeah, they've learned a bunch of stuff since then, and they're probably going to see some improvement. And yeah, I think it's going to be more than a year. But as far as your other question about regarding how usable it will be, I think people will. For smaller ships like a War and Mustang and anything like that, up to a Cutlass series, I think those ships would just be destroyed. But for the Hornet too. But for something like a Constellation or a Freelancer stuff, something like that, this may come more in handy for those. But I'm not sure.
Okay, Corsair Admiral, thank you for the follow. Glad to have you on board with us. Let me go to 10th on this one. 10th, you're the accountant amongst us. Well, the reason why it'll be good to use a ship like this is because it will be better for you financially to get your ship repaired versus putting in an insurance claim. And Chris has said that if you come to the insurance claims too often, eventually they may not decide to pay for it, or they're going to charge you a higher rate or something later on if you're always messing up your ships. Do you think that may be a justification for why people will look for this?
I think there's a couple of things going on here, right? So it's you can scale these things, right? So if you are constantly getting into insurance claims and your premium goes up and et cetera, because you keep on pushing these things through whatever insurance company, you're gonna find, or you're I can imagine you'd be forced to find an org or maybe a shadier, if you're strapped for cash, right, you might want to, instead of making that insurance claim, just take it to the shop. But that shop might be more expensive, so you might go into the other side of things, and these guys might have all the juice, but they it's pay us in cash, right? So that kind of deal. So I can see this ship being a part of many different kinds of outfits, from orgs to small contingents that are just trying to make a buck. things where, you know, you turn your ship in for repair, you show up and there's not, that Crucible is not there the next day, you know, and they're scrapping it for parts or whatnot. There's some gameplay elements to it. But as far as the question on the accounting for it, I firmly believe, and I think someone mentioned it in chat, Ops was saying that we'll see the Vulcan before we see the Crucible. And I think that's an important, I'd agree with that. I mean, of course you can't know, but this ship, just like you were saying, Griff, is huge. And the financial ease of running a Vulcan or maybe a fleet of Vulcans before jumping into a Crucible is probably more akin to what your average player might do. Because this thing is kind of, it's fit for multi-crew gameplay, for orgs, for people who have experience doing a lot of repairing. And I believe that the Vulcan is going to kind of introduce you to that support world with repair and I think it's refueling and resupply. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but you can do that all in that little Vulcan. So you kind of think about the town's handyman running around and you respond to the call and everything's in the back of your pickup truck. You know, that's kind of the Vulcan that I'm imagining. And this could be a part of an org that like kind of specializes in repair, you know, support services for all kinds of things. And, you know, then you have the kind of military side of it as well. So no doubt looks great. The concept here that we see in this gray box looks fantastic, you know, kind of akin to what I think we were all thinking about. But you're going to, I would say that if you are a part of an org, you might want to see how other people are, who might have a Crucible in your org and who's interested in that repair gameplay so that you can team up with them, maybe get yourself a Vulcan and fly that, you know, that department or that unit together before you go out, buy a Vulcan and someone else has a Vulcan. Now you got these two Vulcans sitting somewhere and your org specializes in mining, you know? So it's kind of like something's not going to get used. So I think that's the kind of financial consideration you might want to have before jumping into one of these puppies. No doubt beautiful, but just something to consider.
Okay. Well, Colossal says you can always come over to do business at Colossal's depot of maleficent ship repairs, and he'll help you out.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
But rumor is the parts are from Taiwan, so I don't know if you want to go over there and buy stuff from him, y'all. So, but let the buyer beware. All right, that's all I'm gonna say to that.
No, there'll be premium Drake parts. That's what.
Premium Drake parts. Yeah, premium Drake parts. Kimmy, here's a question for you because you own a Crucible. What are the other ships that are complementary to this? Because in the Q&A, they say that this ship does have limited salvage capability. And I am thinking about what Tenth said. When you come here to get your ship repaired, it's one thing to come with cash, but, will players need to also consider, I've got resources that I could trade, and what'll be some other ships you think will complement this? Do you think that, because I think Rolo or someone mentioned earlier that they talked about this was supposed to have this towing thing before. They've thrown that out. And now because of the SRV coming out, that's now going to be its own tow thing. Do you think being into salvage and other stuff will benefit you if you own a Crucible, or do you think just having the Crucible is enough and you don't have to worry about the additional ships that kind of work along with it?
That's really cool. I got to give you credit right there, Griff, with that question, because I really didn't think about that in the regards of. And now with the Mo Trader we have, right?
Yeah.
That now we can kind of make trading more fluid. It's not all about UEC. Thanks for bringing that point out there, Griff. That was really cool. You got me there. I like that. When you pose that question, now I'm like, wow, wait a minute. I can start using whatever it is with salvage or certain minerals, because with the Crucible, they said that you can basically take the essence or these materials. It could be, let's throw it out there, aluminum or nickel or some other metal, and basically break it down, and then it's a liquid laser infusion that pours over the surface of the ship. So yeah, I kind of see that as really cool, where you can say it's not so much of the UEC. Give me or Mo trade me, like for example, you need this repaired. You might be short on cash because the piracy didn't pan out, right? But as a pirate, you know, you don't have a lot of UEC, but you got a lot of stolen good materials. And you're saying you pose a proposition to say, hey, I need a repair, but I got a lot of aluminum and nickel. Give me X amount of aluminum and nickel, I'll fix your ship.
Okay.
So I love that. I love that aspect. I didn't see that one coming, but yeah, that's really cool. But the reason why I bought this ship,
No, go ahead. Reason why?
Well, the reason why I bought the Crucible was the thing that they said that when you're talking about repairs, I said, I don't really need that ship. But then when they said that the Crucible has the ability to harden and make the hull better than it coming off the manufacturer's floor. And I said, wow, that's a game changer. I got to get this ship. They said this. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
After you get repairs with the Crucible, your ship is in better condition than it coming off the manufacturer's showroom floor.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy smokes.
And I
Game changer.
And to your point, Kimmy, I think as Fastcart mentioned, this was back in November 2015, the video that we're watching right now. And they have since then talked about those other capabilities that would be done. And I even think painting was one of the things that would come out of this ship too. You know, being able to do painting. So you're right, Kimmy, the strengthening of your armor or your ship. There's going to be a lot of different flexibility pieces that they want to put in here. Wait, Fastcart, were you going to say?
Yeah, I just had a question for Colossal. Can I get my repairs on layaway if I come to your depot?
Yeah, with those premium Drake parts, right? With the premium Drake parts, right? Okay, fair enough. All right, let's jump into our next one. And this is kind of a little bit of a throwback. We went on ahead and hit the Apollo earlier. As you guys know, there really is no commercial for the Cutlass Red. So I just went out the other day and just shot some footage. I don't think I have any real interior stuff here. I don't think I do. But let's talk about this ship a little bit, because all of you guys know, most of you all know, that the Cutlass went through a rework. You know, they originally had the Cutlass Red out in the... was the Cutlass Blue out before? Originally?
Red came out and then
red
Cutlass
first.
Blue.
Yeah, it was first.
No. I mean the original versions, the original ones.
Oh, the original version? I don't remember.
There was only the black. There was only the black and the red in the original, because they never did do a blue. No, there was a red, because I owned it before they did the rework. They didn't have a blue
yes,
out.
They did. Yes, they did do the red.
Right.
Red.
And so
Red.
right now, you guys know this is the reworked version of it, and a lot of people went out and bought this ship. And we're not going to get into a big discussion about this, other than some challenges and questions about medical and support. We've already defined the difference between this and the Apollo. The Apollo, we kind of say, will be a little bit more that next step up, people who are much more serious about doing the medical profession. Let me ask you guys this hard question. This is the question I was going to ask Fastcart, but I'll put it to everybody. Just give me your vote on this. A lot of people went out and bought this ship because the bed works as a tier 1 bed right now. But that's going to change on this ship. And I don't know if everybody who owns this ship knows it is not going to be a respawning point. So will there be a mass flood to melt this sucker? Okay, it looks like there's a unanimous head nodding going on here.
IE on the way, y'all.
Okay, so we want to make sure.
I mean, the servers are going to crash if people are going to be melting their ship so fast, trying to get a better ship. Yeah.
Okay.
And Reddit is going to be aflame. Oh man, you thought they were salt before? Oh my goodness.
Okay, so here's the deal, guys. When before the ship went on sale after the rework, I think it used to run like $120, and then I think now it's like $135. After the rework, it went up to $135, went up $15. Okay. The thing that I want to talk about here is, what will the impact of that be? Because again, if you're in the medical career, you know, that's not going to be a problem for you, right? You're going to be like, oh, you know, no problem. This is cool. You know, I'm progressing through. This is more of an ambulance. It's less risk factor than me losing the Apollo if I'm just going to go pick somebody up, right? But I mean, do you think that there'll be a lot of people that will get rid of this ship, or do you think people will still keep it for the tier 1? I mean, we don't even know exactly what tier 3 capabilities are. By the way, this is going to be a tier 3 ship, guys, not a tier 2. It'll be a tier 2, which basically is basic wounds. Basic wounds. It to sustain you, like Kimmy said earlier. It's designed to just get you to the hospital. So that's going to be.
Want to know where you got the information from?
Which one? About the about this.
The tier.
I can't remember if it was when they were doing the Q&A on the Apollo, because people wanted to know what the differences were in the beds. It might be in the medical profession careers thing on the site, but they talk about the there's 3 different beds: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is the bed that respawns you all the way from death or whatever. That one brings you back. Tier 2 is for major injuries. Tier 3 is for minor injuries, basically. Okay, better than a med pen, but you know, you still need to go see the doctor later on. And they haven't.
And which one can allow respawn? The tier 1 don't.
Tier 1
allow respawn.
And tier 1s are only on the Endeavor, as far as ships go. Only on the Endeavor. They can be put onto the Apollo if you upgrade it. Because the Apollo comes with tier 2 beds, 6 tier 2 beds, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think if you want to upgrade to a tier 1, you have to lose 2 or 3 of those other ones. Yeah, something like that. Something to that effect. I hope I got the order right. Tier 1, 2, tier 2, tier 3. If I'm not mistaken, that's the order. If anybody knows differently, please put it in chat, because there's a good question. Good Life, we'll try to find it for you. Let's see if we can find it. You don't think it's going to work as I think? Okay, let's look it up. If anybody's got some second, I'm going to try and look it up too while we're looking at our next ship. Fast carts 10.
Sorry.
What are you gonna say?
Colossal.
Colossal. Put it in DM. Put it in DM for Fast Cart, and then he'll put it in there because it's blocked.
So let me say this. So with this Cutlass Red, you're gonna see this shake out. Like you would the medical profession when this whole tier thing gets decided or implemented at least. People are gonna shake out of the red, no doubt. It's gonna happen. They're gonna move out of it unless you're a medical professional, because you're gonna want this as part of your fleet, and that deal is completely fine, because when the Cutlass Red and what it's designed to do, when all that gets implemented, you're going to pretty much want that as that entry level ship before you start moving on to your Apollos, your Endeavors, etc. I think a lot of people pick this ship up because in the current state of things, you could go into combat, whether it's like ground combat or Atmo or space, and you could have your 2 Cutlass Cutlass Reds sitting somewhere. You can tie yourself to one of those beds, and you could have these kind of org on org battles with respawn enabled, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are really focused on dogfighting and military, at least when the Red showed up. So this is going to be from a testing perspective, the Red was a great way to continue to drive some of the testing for not only medical gameplay, but kind of as an indirect consequence, the combat gameplay, because now people who were flying and fighting and all this good stuff could not go all the way back to PO or all the habitats, but go directly back to a Cutlass Red and get back into the fight faster. So you're definitely going to see people shake out of this thing, to the extent that they want to be in something else. But I think it's a good problem. And remember, the game is firmly in testing phase. So having this available to the community, people pick it up, have it. They might even decide they want to keep it. Some people might decide they want to melt it and get something else. But you're going to see that, you're going to see these things flying around a little bit less often. I think CIG wants to kind of design it that way, because how many times do you see an ambulance with the lights flashing, flying down your street? You hate to see it, right? But you don't want to see it too often. You don't want these things to be as prolific, so that's my thoughts on that.
That's a good point. Guys, take a look. Fast Card, thank you, Colossal. And I put a part of the description into, there's a link there from the shipyard that does talk about medical gameplay. And if you want to get any details about what they've defined as the tier 1, 2, and 3, that information is there. Don't forget, fans, this stuff can change, right? They're still developing it. We're just going by what they've shared with us. Sometimes we hear pieces of this on a SCL or whatever, and the next thing you know, it changes or it upgrades. based on what they're doing in the game. But thank you, Colossal, for putting that in for us. Cutlass Red, it has added a lot to gameplay. Even in the state that it's in right now, people love being able to have that ship. One of the biggest things that help people with is when they're doing missions, right? People will bring a Cutty Red and park it outside of a mission area in case someone dies. They don't have to cross across the galaxy to get right back into whatever it is they're trying to do. And I think that has been a positive. But it'll be also interesting later on to see when this ship does get downgraded, what will happen. I think in that description it said that Tier 3 is recover from minor injuries such as a limb being damaged. So broken leg, maybe shot in the leg, something like that, it can bring you back. But anything deeper than that, you got to go to the doctor, gang. Got to go to the doctor. Okay. Alrighty.
That was interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, again, and you know, folks, you know, some of this information, you know, we're reaching way back. We've gone back 5 years on some of this information. Some of it is just a year old. But these subjects haven't been talked about in quite a while. And I was sharing with the guys earlier that I got some things refreshed in my head just from doing some of this stuff, just doing the research on this. Let's change the channel. Let's get out of this whole, let's see. Good says, I read the link and nowhere does it say that the red or any tier bid can't serve as a respawn point.
It's not that article.
Can't serve as a respawn. And Good Life, maybe help us out here. When you say a respawn point, you're saying, I'm saying right now they do work as a respawn point, but I'm saying when you die later, you're not going to respawn in a Cutlass Red.
You know, Griff, that's the information he wants.
Oh, that's what he's looking for.
To a game
okay.
You say when you die, you don't, and it's not a jab at you. I'm just saying there's a gap in that, right? So there's a game loop that has to develop to determine what happened in that between those instances. And again, don't take this as gospel, but and I don't want you guys to say, oh, you theory crafting. What are you doing? But when you look at this medical gameplay and all these other careers, we're talking about CIG is putting together a matrix of things. So based upon these mission givers, when we're talking about true persistence, iCache, and them being able to pull the metrics of information that will say, give them a mission giver, give that person a mission giver. So when we talk about medical and that state of where that person is in his state, there may be gameplay that will allow you to work or stabilize them to a certain time limit, or if you're able to pull them out and bring them to consciousness, there's your respawn point. So when you look at these metrics of these ships that have these medical capabilities, the first stage or that development is the spawning point. So when you pull in the middle there to say, okay, are you able to save that person? Yeah, then you need to respawn that person. So it's not just there to say, I'm gonna put it here and then remove it. It's something to do with being able to bring that person back from the brink, especially when we're talking about the foundational tech like persistence. And then you're talking about the last thing you want, and then Chris reiterated this so much, death of a spaceman. That's the last thing we want to happen. And so those three aspects of those ships and that tying in of the medical gameplay and those mission givers, you may have a network that you can stabilize this person up to a certain amount of time to get them to the hospital. How far are you from the medical facilities? You may have scanners specifically for the outline where these facilities can be, where you can take the person as fast as you can. But in the meantime, you stabilize, or if you're able to pull them from the brink, boom, your respawn happens. So it's kind of a catch-22 there, but they put it in for a reason.
Okay, I might have to beg to differ a little bit on that. And good Chief, I'm going to point you to Chris's most recent article that he did on Death of a Spaceman, because Kimmy just mentioned that. Let me pop it in. That was the video that we just recently saw. Now, I want to make sure I understand what he means by respawn, because I think that's probably the thing where we're crossing wires here a little bit.
Yeah.
When I'm referring to respawning as when you die. Now, Chris made it very clear that they're going to do this thing where you're going to use your DNA at a location, and that if you die, in other words, you die, there's going to be this option of you coming back from your DNA at whatever that location is where you left your DNA at. That's not on a Cutlass Red, and it's not on an Apollo, at least as far as I know of.
Right.
He mentioned it being at a facility or a hospital. Now, once that happens, you can have a choice of you come back, and when you come back, he talked about there being some possible loss or degeneration in your DNA, and that can only happen so many times, and then eventually it doesn't happen anymore, and you can't come back as that person anymore. You come back as someone else. And guys, correct me. You guys in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. If I've got something wrong with that. So that's why I'm curious about this term respawn, because right now in the game we respawn. You die, you come back. There's no impact to your character. There's no loss. It's basically COD in space right now.
Right.
So
For right now,
in his
I'm
question,
speaking of
but
waking
here, this is what he says. Respawn. Listen to what he says. He says respawn does not mean you're going to go back into battle. Respawn means that your body shows up in a bed, and it's up to the medical professionals either to ferry you to a hospital or get you back into a fight. That's not necessarily what they've said either. What they've said is if I'm in battle and I die, my body's laying there. It's up to my partners to drag my body back. My body is not going to just despawn from that location.
Not now.
Right. No, I'm talking about in the future. Right. I'm saying in the future.
I'm not speaking on death.
No, I'm speaking to what he's saying right now, Kimmy. Not to your point. And I'm saying this is what they said will happen in the future. That your body, in fact, that not only will your body be there, Chris said that your body will be there, and when you come back in your clone state, you can come back to where your body was to retrieve your items.
With no items.
Right, with no items. If somebody hasn't robbed you, right? If somebody hasn't robbed you, right? So, I get what you're saying, Good Life. I'm saying where the state of respawning is right now. Maybe I'm talking about where it will ultimately be. That ultimately, totally that is not going to be how the beds will work, where you'll be spawning in them just because you die right there.
No, on the brink. Only on the brink or unconscious.
And I said in chat, I remember hearing what Griffin had heard. I think it probably said in SGL or some calling on dev or something like that. It's specifically from Chris Roberts or someone in charge of that development. They might have changed their mind in the future.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember hearing exactly what Griffin. I can't remember. I can't remember where it was said.
Yeah, the death of the spaceman thing has been such a somewhat theory crafted, somewhat extrapolating things from what Chris has said. I think his most recent post is probably the closest thing we can go by, and even that changed a little bit. They added some new things to that. So I appreciate your point, Good Life. Yeah, we'll see. I absolutely agree with you. We'll see how it goes. I guess my whole point is that I don't know that the Cutlass Red will have the same level of operating in its tier as an Endeavor would. I guess that's what I was saying, and I think that right now, in the future, and I'm just kind of concerned that if people don't understand that ship may change, they may say, "Oh my God, I bought the ship thinking I could do all this great stuff, and now they've kind of cut it back to only doing so much." So, but we'll see what happens. What do you say, Fastcart?
Let me ask you, Good Life. If what we say is true, like what you said about the tier 3 not being a respawn point, Good Life, would that change your opinion about the Cutlass Red and make you want to buy another ship? Go ahead.
That's a good, interesting point. Okay. All right. Good questions and good comments there. Let's jump into the next one here, and this is one that we don't hear about very much, guys. No video for it because there is none. I was going to shoot some and I didn't get time to edit it. Actually, I did shoot it. I just didn't edit it. Now that I think about it, did I edit it? Actually, I did edit it. Why didn't I put it in here? Okay, the Mako. It was a long week, guys. It was really a long week. Oh no, you know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. What was really weird. I went in and I don't own a Mako. So I rented one, right? The terminal let me rent one. I rented it. I went in and shot some exterior stuff. I got pulled away. I said, I'll come back and do the interior stuff later. I came back. The Mako would not show up on the rental screens. It wouldn't even show up to rent it again. So I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know if it was one of the patches they did over the last couple of days, but whatever it was, the Mako was not available anymore, so I didn't finish it. But for those of you all who don't know about this ship, it's the Reliant Mako. It is what we nicknamed it back in the day, the news van. It's basically the media broadcasting ship that's in the game. This ship has had a lot of theory crafting wrapped around it too as to what it will really, really do. But basically the idea is that, and they've talked about this ship being used for everything for content creators who want to be able to shoot stuff, being used for surveillance, and being used for broadcasting. Some of you guys know that throughout the game there are these monitors everywhere. Those monitors are not necessarily intended just to run ship commercials, but there's been talk about whether or not there will be tying in to those monitors even when certain things take place, whether it's a battle, covering some type of event, or whatever. Do any of you guys own the ship? Anybody on the panel, any of you guys own the ship, or no?
No.
Fastcart, you're part of Relay, and you don't own one of these? I thought that all the guys in Relay own one of these.
I'm going to be the manufacturer guy. I'm going to be the guy who supplied the mod that would go into these ships. But yeah, I know people really are all about the ship. They're looking forward to it. They want to like do things in game with it. They can't they can't wait for it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as far as I am, I don't own one.
Mm-hmm. It is an interesting ship. On the exteriors, on one of the ends of the wings, rather, there is a very wide, very large camera that the operator in the back can operate, and it gives a really cool view of anything. There has to be definitely coordination between the pilot and the person who's using the camera. They do have some flexibility of controlling the camera, but it also needs to be definitely communication going between who's piloting the ship and the person who's operating the camera. Hypothetical question to the panel. I know. See, you guys have to forgive me. I'm a role player, okay? So please understand when I put these questions out, they will sound so unrealistic, but I can't help myself, okay? I cannot help myself. I'm one of those people that believe that they should create some mechanic in the game. I'm going to go back to the Cutlass Red and the medevac ships. That they should be treated just like they would be treated in war. That if you see a medical ship, right, you cannot fire upon it. And if you do fire upon it, then there's going to be issue. Now, I don't have a problem with you firing upon it when it's en route. Okay? In other words, we get a call that there's something going on. I'm going to go pick somebody up. If you want to attack me while I'm on my way there, that's fine. I do have an issue with after I've picked somebody up and I'm trying to transport them to a hospital, that you decide you're going to fire upon me. Now, I've came up with this really weird thing about how they can make that work. In other words, if you do decide to attack me, I feel you should get a crime stat. I think you should get an elevated crime stat for attacking it. Now, you may say, well, I'm doing it because this guy's picking up my enemies and trying to take them back. But to me, I think there should be like a Geneva Convention thing, and that you should get a penalty for attacking somebody, because I think that keeps gameplay going when you're able to move people back and forth. The Kimmy says, nah, forget it. Now, that's my role-playing side. Okay, now the reason why I'm saying that is this. For people who want to do this news van, for people who want to do that level of gameplay with medical, is it going to be a turnoff because basically people are going to see them as nothing more than a flying bullseye? Well, is there going to be a turnoff? I mean, if you see this ship out there, let's say that you're trying to cover Kimmy. Let's say you're in an org and you're trying to cover this for your org so people can see what's going on. And then all they do is just blast you out of the sky. Not because you're attacking anybody or doing anything, but just because you're there. Will you still want to be a newscaster? Will you still want to be broadcasting to the universe what's going on? You trying to make some name and fame for yourself, and every time you go out, they see a yellow ship and they just decide to blow it out of the sky.
Griff, you know better, man.
I'm asking. I'm asking.
Vandal don't care.
I ain't talking about Vandal.
Pirates don't care.
I ain't talking about pirates.
I mean, you gotta include everything, man. You can't just say, "Well, I'm a news van, leave me alone." I'm like, you witnessing a crime here. I don't want any witness.
Wait, no, I'm not talking about those scenarios. No, those scenarios, I agree with you. A pirate attacking me, yes. Vandal attacking me, yes. But that's role play. I'm talking about people who just see you a moving target.
Role play.
No. I'm saying I agree with you if those people attack me. I'm talking about the regular player who just happens to see a ship moving and they just decide to shoot at it regardless of what it's doing. That's what I'm talking about.
If you ain't making your UEC, ain't nothing regular.
Wow.
If it comes down to your bottom line, there ain't nothing regular about anything. You got to make that money, man.
Wow. Look at Pramster. Pramster, thank you, Pramster. Pramster understands what I'm saying. Thank you, Pramster. Thank you. Thank you.
You really don't tape it.
No. But look at what he says. Look what he says, though. He says within UEE space. And I'm willing to buy that for $1. Because that's like Eve. Sure. If I'm in UEE space, I'm saying there should be certain protections for me And mind you, if you want to shoot my red ship, that's fine. If you want to shoot my ambulance, that's fine. But my point is, for gameplay reasons, because here's the problem, Kimmy. In a lot of these games, these space shooter games, there's never a consequence for the person who does the shooting. The person on the other end lost their ship, lost their life. They matter of fact, maybe they're on their last life because you decided to blow that ambulance driver up, and now he's got to go through this whole new cycle. And guess what? All you did to do was chuckle and put a little mark on your wall saying you blew up another ship. That's some crap. You should catch some heat. You should catch some heat for doing that stuff. Go ahead, Fastcart.
Wasn't there a post or clip like a week or two ago about saying that the Idris will be like cut the Concord of Star Citizen?
Say that one more time.
The Concord, the Idris?
The Idris will start.
Well, the Idris, but that's only if you have like a lot of ships that the Idris will pop up. It's got to be like you got to have a bunch of ships to come in for the Idris to come in. Okay. It's gonna elevate based upon how big the attack is. So the Idris just won't show up. It's got to be a bunch of ships. Now let me go. I want to go back to something that Good Life says. He says, "Dude, you're a healer. We don't know what you're doing there," and I agree. So here's my answer. I told you, games. I thought about this. What I said is that there should be a way that if I bring somebody who's on my ship who's wounded, they're wounded. Whoever that was who followed. Let me see who that was who followed. Arcadia. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow. If I pick up somebody, once I pick up somebody and I'm running red lights. Good Life, thank you for the follow, Good Life. He's giving good questions tonight. He's challenging me. I like that. I'm saying that if an injured person is on my ship, once an injured person, and they got to be in the bed, they got to be in the medical bed and know that they're injured.
How would people know?
I'm going to tell you. Because scan them. Thank you, 10th. You scan them. There you go. You scan them. That's all you got to do.
Say that you're going to let
all you do
if they're a pirate.
No. I'm just saying, if you scan my ship and there's a wounded person, you can say, okay, he's on a legitimate run. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Now, if you scan my ship, and ain't nobody hurt on that bad fella, you can blow it out the sky as far as I'm concerned. You can blow me out the sky.
I agree with you.
We need to get out of here. Let me shoot you in the leg and put you in the bag, so
and then let's put
flesh wound.
Yeah. Well, but Good Life mentions another point, and he talks about the fact that I don't have to scan you if you're because in the war, if you had the Red Cross on you when you flew over area, you knew not to bomb it, right? So, and don't get me wrong, I know that there's I'm asking way too much. Trust me, from a lot of people who enjoy griefing and everything else, I know it's a lot to ask. And I told y'all at the very beginning that this was a RPG scenario. That's my last name. But I wish they would create something in that dynamic for medical people, so that when they do want, like I'm thinking about the people who have these orgs that are nothing but medical orgs. That's their whole thing, is doing medical, and they want to be able to respond to beacons and all this other stuff. And my thing is, they know there's risk involved. But oh my God, if the risk is just because they're moving through space and they're out there trying to actually help whoever they can help, and then they're getting tagged all the time, is that going to turn people off when it comes to their career? I'm not going to belabor the point. You guys get what I say. Better to have a roll with the crew. You're right, Games. That might be the deal. You just have to make sure you got an escort with you whenever you're doing something. Thank you, Scuba Steve. We appreciate that, buddy. So let's go back to the Mako, guys. The news van.
I love it.
Is it practical? I mean, is it going to be practical? I mean, are people going to take on that role of broadcasting?
Is anything going to be practical in this game? I mean, like some things will be more practical than others. I think it just depends on the individual or individuals who are trying to make something work in the game. But yeah, I think Relay have all these plans and stuff like that. Who knows if it actually comes to fruition? But they'll give it a try. I think it had a good chance of being practical.
Yeah. Good Life. Thank you for the subscription. Yeah, go ahead,
Let me
Tim.
say this. Here's the thing. If one of the key tenets of Star Citizen is to be an immersive universe that has all these loops where people can feel as though they can do anything, right? You've heard CR say that tons of different times, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to put that and keep that as a main tenet of the game, you're going to have to, and for all my fighters out there, right, you're going to have to think about the game outside of just trying to pew somebody, right? Mm-hmm. Now, is that going to be a critical component? Will people have to be defended and know where to travel and what to do and et cetera, et cetera? Absolutely. But if we only cater to the ones who want to blow stuff up or grief or however whatever side of the coin you how you want to call it, it's not going to be fun for a lot of people. So going back to Griff's original question was, if somebody who's in a medevac or an Apollo or an SRV or a Mako or something else, right? Like if they're continually getting popped, in the core of them bringing to the game was, I want to be able to, I want to start a news network, and I want to be at the breaking news whenever orgs decide to, fight each other. I want to catch it all. I want to be able to talk to, very high level people in the verse. If that's something you want to do, you should absolutely be able to do it. Now, you have to understand the consequence of it, but there needs to be, just like there is for military gameplay, there's some rails to that. The other piece of the pie is, what kind of rails are we going to put on so that somebody who wants to enjoy the other careers can also do that, with the idea that they also have to come prepared. So what am I saying in a nutshell? Simply put, it's balance, guys. Like, you're going to have to figure out how to balance the whole thing. And once you figure it out, everybody's going to have a great time. So if I'm in the Mako, I know full well I can get popped at any point in time, but there's going to be some kind of trade-off for me. Maybe it's the speed. Maybe it's me having as part of an org or a fleet. Maybe it's some combination of Griff's idea. But it has to be something there so that people don't get fed up with it, because the fact that this ship is in the game means that CIG wants you to enjoy it.
Interesting point. And again, guys, trust me. I understand that I was an old Eve player. Yeah. I remember back in the old days, if you want to go somewhere, you got to bring an escort, bring some people, all this other stuff. I get it. Trust me, I get it. I'm just saying, I really would love to see that there's, as Tenth said, just some balance. If someone pops me and I'm in a news van, if I'm in UEE space, maybe I got to pay for a license to do it, but that's part of my deal. If somebody pops me, they should get a crime stat. Yeah, I died, but at least they got a crime stat, for doing it, just for the heck of it. And I get the idea too there. Maybe somebody's doing surveillance. Maybe it's not that they're covering news. Maybe they're out there doing some dirty stuff. That's a chance that person who shoots them, it might be worth it. It might be worth getting that crime stat to pop that ship and get rid of it. I just have such bad taste from Eve, where there was no repercussions.
I get it.
There was no repercussions. It was always one-sided. The person who got popped took the bigger loss no matter what, and that drove me crazy. And I just don't want to see that happen in this.
And Eve someone can pop you with a cheap destroyer or even a frigate.
Exactly.
Nothing happens.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And you would be out millions.
Exactly. Yep. Drove me crazy. Yeah, a higher bounty even, Ops Chief. I agree. Something like that says, hey, if you decide to kill somebody who's, in an ambulance and they're transporting somebody, maybe instead of a 1-level crap, maybe it's a 3, you jump up by 3 crime stats. I don't know.
20,000 UEC.
Yeah. Ooh, boy, yeah, that hurts, doesn't it? Because that bad fella hurts when you outrun the cops and they charge you the 20 grand, boy. That hurts. Hit you in the wallet. Yeah. In all seriousness, it's a sandbox game. How can you possibly control that? I agree. Some people don't care about the bad. And you're right, Good Life. That's why I mentioned it. And I said I'm a role player. There are some people who don't come to the game as a role player, and that's fine. Not a problem, because I'm not expecting everybody to role play in this game. But I am saying that there are some things they can build in the mechanics. There's some basic things, like someone mentioned earlier. Scan the ship. If there's an injured person on the ship, you take a chance on it. If you scan the ship and there's nobody injured, boom, you can blast the sucker out of the sky if you want to, as far as I'm concerned. And they've got that capability now in the game.
And you might not care. And that's good. Look. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everybody, like, the cool thing about CIG, I encourage everybody to go back and watch the most recent video with the President Kimmy65 on it, where he talks about the community. Kimmy is a starring role in there. Kimmy, I'm always going to give you that for that, man. I love being the presence of greatness. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. The coolest part about it is that there's a ton of different kinds of people who play this game. And however you're going to play it, you're welcome, right? And we just want to make sure that everybody can enjoy it. That at least that's from my perspective, right? So that's what I would want to see. I'm
going to cap this ambulance thing off with Pramster's last comment. He said you could get an achievement for ambulance chaser for killing ambulances. So there you go. You can get an award for doing that in the game, right? So, go
Griffin,
figure.
one last thing about the ambulance thing. Agent sent me that link, and that talk about John Crew going into more detail. I didn't see the specific
awesome.
line about the Endeavor and the Cutlass Red and whatnot, but he goes into more detail.
Okay, awesome. That's good news. Thank you. Guys, check out that link if you want to know more about this whole thing with ambulances and tears and death and all that good stuff. Okay, let's hit our last ship of the day. Actually, there's two of them. Let's move on here into oh, I'm sorry. We got another ship I forgot about. Yeah, check this out. Everybody knows this ship.
Ship that broke the RSI website.
I'll put the link about one community in Twitch chat. I still get lost in this shit.
I know, right?
I'm so sorry. My mic was muted.
It's funny.
Let's hit this a little bit. Some of you guys remember when the Starfarer came out, there were a couple of surprises about it. One of them was that it was much bigger than expected. It was the first ship that we got that was like 100 meters in length. The other thing that was surprising was that CIG spent a lot of time on the layout of this ship. But a lot of the time that was spent was in relation to what happens when we have boarding parties, when someone tries to take over the ship. And I think they actually did a pretty good job on the sense of the maze-like design and the different ways you can access the ship. But there was a bad side to it, where a lot of people felt that the layout of the ship was also very confusing, that it didn't make a lot of sense, and that they might have spent too much time. Yeah, they may have been worrying about too much time on the PvP aspect of it, but not the actual physical layout in the sense of the functionality of the ship. So I want to kind of lay that down as a background. This was also the very first ship where we saw a dramatic increase in price. When this ship first came out, it was 185 or 175, 195 bucks. It jumped from that up to, if I'm remembering correctly, is it $300 now? If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's yeah, the Starfarer. And so it had a big, but it also grew in size, which was another factor. And we saw another that also happened with the 890 jump that went from $600 to $900. So we've seen that when these ships grow, that the prices change. Best bang for the buck right now, for those of you who don't know it, was the original price on the Merchantman, which was 250 bucks if I'm remembering correctly. 50, yeah, something like that. And so we've seen this happen where there have been ships that have increased in price. The Carrack was another one that increased in price. I think it went from $350 to $500. Yeah. So there's been several ships where we've seen this happen. The Starfarer. I want to put some background on this ship because this was the first ship that we saw that was really of large scale, decent size scale, because it's not large. First of all, do any of you guys own a Starfarer or a Gemini? That's the question I want to ask. Is anybody here into that?
Not own. I think it's on rental for me.
Okay. Kimmy, you don't own one?
No.
Okay.
Way.
Fastcart, you don't own one either? Okay. This is the ultimate level of support for me, is doing this type of career for people who are into this. There's something I learned today, though, from reading the Q&A, and we do want to put the, not just the Q&A, there's a great piece in the shipyard that CIG did on refueling.
I'll put it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I was trying to get it. But it's called Fuel Mechanics. And there's been a lot of concern about this particular ship. When people bought this ship, the very first thing people thought of was that, ooh, I'll be able to go out and harvest fuel, and I'm going to make my millions and become a capitalist from doing fuel. Yep. And all of a sudden, a few years later, CIG said, yeah, you can harvest hydrogen fuel, but you can't harvest Quantanium fuel. And people went crazy. They went nuts.
That never happened, Griff.
Yeah, right. And people thought that, they'd be able to do Quantanium. And then we found out that Quantanium is a hard material that is mined by ships like the Prospector or the Mole, or I'm assuming even the Orion. But what they have alluded to was that the fact that the ship can refine that material. Now, here's something I've seen people do, and I'm going to connect some dots here, and then you guys can jump in. I have seen, yes, it can refine both of them, Ops Chief, absolutely. I've seen people taking the Mole out in a Drake Cutlass and in other ships and go out and mine them. I have never seen anybody take one out in a Starfarer. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because I've always wondered why the Starfarer had that big ramp in the back, right? I mean, I've watched people put all types of stuff in the back of that ship. None of it ever made sense to me, right? They've crammed Merlins back there. They've crammed I'm like, why would I put that in a Starfarer? The thing's a beast, But then I started thinking about, if that thing can refine Quantanium, it makes sense to put a mole of several moles, rocks. Put rocks inside of it and take it down to a planet and let it mine Quantanium and then bring that stuff back on board. Also, if you guys notice in the layout of the Starfarer, at the upper deck where you go into the captain's or the pilot area, there is a panel that looks out over the dock area. I used to assume that was for Manifest. Maybe it is still for a Manifest. But I'm also wondering whether or not that it's something that when you bring materials into that docking area, you use that panel to allocate things to be refined in the ship, which could be a possibility. So if you've mined Quantanium, you've brought it into the cargo area, Just like when we go to Port Olisar to trade in something, you bring that panel up. It shows that you've got so many CCU or SCU of Quantanium, and now you transfer it into the refinery on that ship, and now you're able to produce Quantanium fuel. Possibility. Since none of you guys own this ship, what are your feelings about the Starfarer? Do you think it's and we can talk about the the Gemini as well, which is its sister ship. Any thoughts on these ships? Are people going to hire these guys, or is this going to be just an org kind of thing? What do you guys think? Or is there any other gameplay?
I'm with Kimmy, man. This thing,
yeah, I agree.
It's massive. This is for large orgs with the focus that have some steady cash flow going on, that they can allocate the cost of upkeep of this deal and continue to be profitable. I mean, with all the big ships, boys, like jumping into these things is not going to be a spur of the moment decision, right? Like, I want to get one of these things, and recognize that the fuel to
it depends on how drunk you are.
Right? Yeah, of course. But with these things, man, you got to really consider it. And so, I don't personally plan on having one like this. I think a lot of my ships in my fleet stop at the kind of small crew level. This is very much a large crew org operation ship. So unless your org has a need for it, and you want to gift your capital ship to your org for a specific vertical, then this would be something for you. But it certainly isn't a solo deal.
Yeah, I forget what year and month this came out, but when it first came out, one of my friends pulled it out and let me go on it. I got lost in it so quickly. Even watching Twitch videos or streamers they get lost instantaneously. My first thought was, someone said it in Twitch chat, but my first thought was this would be a great PvP for the Starfarer, because we didn't really have those back when it first came out. Now we do, but it's still pretty good PvP even now. But people in chat saying that it needs an interior rework, especially now that compared to the newer stuff coming out. Who knows?
Kimmy, got a question for you. Everybody's looked at this ship from the aspect of fuel, right? But CIG has also alluded to the fact that it's not just about fuel, that it can transport anything. What does this do for people who have bases, such as bringing resources, something as simple as water, right? Or some other type of food source? Are people just kind of being limited when they look at this ship as just being, just for bringing fueling ships and that's it?
Well, that's another good question, Griff, because now that the assets and features are unfolding in Star Citizen, now we're talking about the aspects of gases and refining it, and what could that do? Some of the things I was thinking of, as far as you have these locations like your home. Now that we're talking about homesteads, right? And now we're seeing these different weather locations, like Microtech coal. You're not going to sell potentially water to someone that lives in Microtech.
Right.
They can go outside and dig it up and put it in a cup and go back in the house, and they got water. When you're talking about desert areas, man, this is a game changer. When you're talking about people that by choice or having no choice, they have to be in this desert location, and the Starfarer, it finds a niche where it can bring literally water to a planet, or maybe you have a farm, or you have these plots of lands where maybe you're involved with hydroponics, and you have to grow certain items of vegetation. Then there's a niche for the Starfarer to drop water supply, or going to, instead of just fuel. Now you're talking about homesteads that pop up. Now the Starfarer has more of an aspect of filling more roles where you can take water to these homesteads, and then all of a sudden it's not so much of, well, someone's going to blow me up. I'm in a hostile territory, so I need escorts. Whereas you can take you can take the Starfarer to UEE territories and just feed homesteads of just pure water or some other supplies, grain maybe to grow their crops. There's so many aspects opening up with the Starfarer. So yeah, it's a lucrative business, but it's got a lot of overhead. And again, when I first saw it, it intimidated me with the scale. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing?
Yeah, no, it is a big ship, and those are great points, Kimmy, that you bring out. Crutha Solias, thank you for the follow. I'm sorry for butchering your name. I probably said it wrong, but thank you. No, Kimmy's right. This ship has got to be looked at beyond that. Admiral, I saw your question had floated through earlier. Let me give you what I do know about the Gemini. The answer is yes regarding the missile capacity in the front. That is swappable from the gas vent that is normally on the Starfarer. You can swap that out. It does pull gases such as hydrogen or in gas clouds. It also is able to separate them. Hence why we have the different tanks in the back. Of course, they can't be mixed, but you can separate different types of gases into those areas. As you guys know, the Gemini has better defenses in the sense of armament, but it also loses some of its cargo space. That is the difference between that and the standard Starfarer, between the Gemini and the Starfarer. I think the Gemini.
I have to go in for a minute.
Okay, sure. The Gemini also cost us a little bit more. I don't remember what the price difference was in between the two. I don't know if anybody remembers what the difference was.
I put it in Twitch chat. The Starfarer is $300 and the Gemini is $340.
Okay, $340.
US dollars.
Yeah. Fastcart's got to pop out for a little bit. He may make it back before we're done. Is there anything, Fastcart, about this ship that sticks out for you? I know you talked about the fact of the PvP aspect, but in the fact that the land, not for me,
just huge,
just big.
It's not for me. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to maybe being serviced by it if I ever run out of fuel in a verse. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. I will say this about this ship. Yeah, I love this ship. I've memorized it in and out as soon as I got it because I was so fascinated with the size about it. And you're right, for people who don't frequently get on this ship, it is so easy. I'll tell you another thing. Trying to remember where all the component panels on this ship is a monster too. You better have a real good engineer who works on this particular ship. Yeah, you do. And Kimmy's right. This is another one, a ship where you've got to have security. You've got to have people who know what they're doing engineering wise, and you've got to have people who know about fueling the ships. With the gas cloud tech coming in, it'll be really interesting to see if they implement some aspect of gas collection with this ship too. I would love to see that happen with either of those ships because it would all of a sudden make them practical. I don't know if you've ever tried to fly one of these suckers. It is a beast. This is no joke. I came out of Quantum going to one of those Hurl HLR5s or 4 or whatever one time, and you know how you have to do like that second jump where you go from 100 kilometers out to like 30 kilometers. So I decided to, you're going through an asteroid belt, and I proceeded to head toward this place. And as I tried to slow down, I drifted 10 kilometers past the station. That's how much this thing drifts. This thing and prospectors, they drift like crazy, guys. So I'm telling you now, give yourself plenty of time. I also took about 20 people out one time. We were going to Grimhex because we were going to go party at Grimhex. So we all loaded up in one of these suckers. And I tried to bank and make a turn. I drifted right into an asteroid, killed all 20 people. So that's another thing that I want to warn you about in this sucker.
You can climb that for that.
Dude, listen, asteroid belts are not a friend of the Starfarer, okay? So if your fleet says we're in such and such belt, come give us fuel, don't rush to get there is all I'm telling you, okay? It is a beast. It is a beast to fly. But it's a lot of fun to fly too because it is really a big ship. FC's got to duck out for a little bit.
I gotta go.
Yeah, before you go, real quick, if there's a ship that you would add to the list of support that's not in here that you think should be on here, is there anything in particular that you would add? I know you mentioned about the tow ship earlier. Is there anything else that you think?
Just that one, the SRV, the tow ship.
Okay.
I mean, you can take people out of our atmosphere, get them out of trouble, and stuff like
Okay.
And the Vulcan, we talked about the Vulcan before.
Yeah.
That one too.
Yeah, Vulcan too. Okay, good. Thanks, Fastcart. Guys, say bye to Fastcart. He may make it back, but if not, y'all see him later. Otherwise, okay. Kimmy, real quick with you, is there anything that you would pick as another ship that you think would complement support ships?
Well, I would have to go with the Vulcan in the aspect of not only it has one purpose. It has the refuel, it has rearm and repair in it. So I mean, it's multifaceted as far as being able to perform a function or a service to your org or anybody who's in distress in that nature. It does three functioning things, and you can provide all those three services at once. So
Yeah.
it's got to be the Vulcan.
Yeah, rearm, refuel, and repair. You're right. That's pretty versatile. 10th, any ship that you would throw into that? We've got the SRV, we've got the Vulcan. Is there anything else you think that would fall in that?
I gotta agree with the +1 on the one more on the Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I know so I'm gonna say the Valkyrie, in the sense that I think it's classified as what is the classified as, like a military
Dropship or whatever.
Dropship,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like something to that effect. I think what you're going to find, at least because we've been talking a lot about just kind of the other side of combat gameplay, right? But inside of combat gameplay, you do have this kind of tier of support ships in which ships like the Vulcan could fit in. You know, I could see a Vulcan fitting in as in a fleet. You know, and so when you think about support, you're thinking about the underpinning for any kind of operation, whether it be private or military. And so I would probably toss my hat in there if someone said, started to make an argument for the Valkyrie being something that could be used as a support ship, in the sense that it has that crew capability, even if it had to go through maybe a short redesign, and maybe adding some kind of maybe some of the bed capabilities, or maybe some kind of small workstation for small craft, like you think about maybe your Noxes, your bikes, your small vehicles, things like that. That anything that you could find in combat that could be useful that way. That's what I'd probably toss my hat in for. I think the Valk is, someone mentioned in chat, like the Valk is a workhorse, is an excellent ship, massive utility. But I think if I would have to add to the conversation, it would be the Valk.
From a military standpoint, support still be support. Okay.
10th, dude, they need to be clapped in the chat. Cliff, you make a great point, man. And it opened when you're talking about the Valkyrie and you're dropping ground support. Doesn't that ship become support when you're dropping off ground troops to take on a mission on ground? All of a sudden, the Valkyrie itself becomes a support to those troops on ground.
And again, this is why I said some of the ships you can kind of see how they could cross into that. My pitch that I'm going to throw in, and that I'm surprised didn't fall into this category, were the Argos, the cargo and the personnel. They actually put them into industrial, and I was a little surprised about that. I actually expected those, like the SRV, like Kimmy, like he said, I was expecting the Vulcan. I did expect those ships to fall under the category of support. But Arcadia, have a good night. Thank you for hanging out with us. But I did expect the Argos to be in the area of support. Femship Forever, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So again, I still think that there may be some ships that we have not seen yet that can still fall into this category in the future, as careers build and there are things at CIG. Maybe there's stuff they already have and we just haven't seen it. I do want to hit on a couple things real quick on this last piece on refueling before we jump out of here. Guys, and our group read this beforehand, but I want to pass it on to you guys so you guys will know about this. They do talk about, I shared the story a little while back, and the guys heard me say this earlier. About a month ago, I was out with Nihilus. He's in chat. Nihilus and I decided to go out when the 100 series ships came out. And I was going to meet up with him. He was someplace else in the system, and I said, I'll meet up with you. I'm looking at some stuff. So I took off from R-Corp, Area 18. I went and visited all the moons that were around R-Corp. And then I flew from there all the way to Microtech. And then when I got to Microtech, I visited the moons at Microtech. I mean, when I say visited, I mean I flew to them, landed on them, went out and did some stuff, got back on my ship and took off. And then from there, I went back up to Bajini. And then from there, without landing, And then I went to New Babbage. It wasn't until I was landing at New Babbage that I got low fuel warning. So the moral of my story is this. I went almost 53 million kilometers in a Origin 100 and didn't have to refuel. And it didn't click. I thought it was a bug. I said, oh man, they're going to definitely nerf this. There ain't no way they're going to allow Origin. It's it.
What ship was that again?
Oh, it was a Origin.
Oh,
yes.
Origin.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Good life and Rolo are hitting exactly where I'm going. I completely forgot about the air system. Or it wasn't that I forgot about it. I didn't know it was actually working because they didn't talk about it. The ships came out, but they never talked about the mechanic is working. You should try it out, blah, 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 blah. And then it dawned on me, oh my God, that's why I was able to do that. And you guys know in small ships, there's no way you're not going to stop at a rest and relax and get fuel. You are not going to travel across that whole system and not get fuel, okay? So for those of you who own that ship, I want you to understand, remember there was a little barking about why did Origin ships cost a little bit more? Now you might be understanding the justification for that extra 10 or 15 bucks. Now, and Rolo, we're getting ready to hit it. Rolo. You're going right down the road I want to go down. There are 3 ships that have refineries in them. The Air is one of them. The 100 series Origins have a refinery, and it says that those ships can not only refine hydrogen, they also refine other gases as well. The second one is the Freelancer Der. You guys know that's the exploration one. That's why that one can go long range. And then the last one is the Starfarer. So those 3 ships all have refineries in them that allow them to use gases and build and actually have more fuel. Okay, this is the thing I want to read to you guys. That's on that fueling page. Combat ships. Check this out. The in-game equivalent of a carrier-based ship such as a Gladius and a Hornet. These ships will not come, nor do they have the ability for fuel intakes. Now, what they've said is there's 3 different types of ships: ships that don't have fuel intakes, ships that don't have them but have the option to have the component installed, and then ships that actually do have fuel intake. So understand there's 3 different classes. Let's move to the next category, combat long range. These ships are like the Vanguard, the Retaliator. They have intakes as their roles require them to traverse long distances. Exploration ships. These ships have fuel intakes by default. Their very nature dictates that they can travel long distances, well away from the nearest refueling locations. Industrial and transport. Typically, these ships have fuel intakes by default, as again, they are required to travel long distances. Support. Naturally, the Starfarer and most other ships in this career will retain them, as they'll often be expected to execute long distance and extended duration missions. And then the last one is competition ships. These ships vary depending on their type. Some ships, like the Razor, feature technology that allows them to refuel, whereas others, like the M50, deal with this issue differently by having larger fuel tanks. Okay, so
Griff.
Yeah, buddy.
You know that that old saying, art imitates life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what you were driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
A hybrid.
Yeah, basically. You're right.
A hybrid, man.
Basically, that you're right. That's actually what it was when you think about it, right? You get more miles to the gallon, right? That's basically what it was. I'm not. You're right about that. That's awesome. Okay, well, listen, we are going to wrap it up for today. We had a really good discussion on support ships. For those of you who own them, Matt Wolf, dude, thank you for the 100 bits coming in on the final stretch. Matt thank Wolf. You. We appreciate that. Yeah, we just kind of want to tell you guys thank you for being here tonight and hanging out with us and support. We've got a good amount of viewers tonight. It's a Sunday night. You guys could be any place chilling, but you're with us, and we do appreciate that. Kimmy, tell people where they can find you at.
Wow. I'm going to be on Twitch, ladies and gentlemen. Just like the name, Kimmy65. I'm streaming. I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about the game mechanics, controller setups, just chatting, man, just having fun and sharing the passion of Star Citizen. Come check me out, Kimmy65.
Okay, awesome. And 10th, where can people see you or find you?
Yeah, so I don't stream, but I do appear on shows. So you'll find me on Soul Citizens and over at Channel 27 News. which we cover the news in the verse, and that's going to be coming back very shortly. But yeah, Vector 27 is my org, and Channel 27 is kind of a community project there, similar to what we're doing here at Soul Citizens. Griff is on there from time to time, and we're always looking for people to help out. So if you like this, you certainly this is one big community. So we appreciate you guys, and thanks for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. And by the way, J2 was here Friday. He hung out with us.
Nice.
And yeah, he hung out with us and got to, kind of fill us in on what's been going on, because the question did come up like, dude, where you been? He says, we'll be back. We'll be back. So we're looking forward to seeing Channel 27 back in the airwaves, because you guys do have your own unique way of giving out Star Citizen news, which is always cool. Want to give you guys a real quick update. This Friday coming up, we will be having our Friday Night Live. But we will not be having Soul Citizens next Sunday. We're taking a week off because IAE kicks off next week. And we really want to be able to allow everybody to kind of take in that week of sales and ships and information. We will be that following Sunday back, which will be the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So we will be back that night. We'll be kind of doing a real big discussion about what we've seen from IAE. Shiver Bathory is going to be back on the show with us to talk about that as well. So you guys know Shiver, he's been a guest here before. And we're going to have a real good time kind of unfolding all of the hopefully surprises that CIG is going to drop on us for their anniversary sale, which we call IAE 2950. So we will look forward to seeing you guys then. In the meantime, I think that is about it. We need to figure out who we want to raid. Fastcart hasn't made it back yet. I was thinking that he might pop his head back in here. But let's see who we can drop in on. Let's go to, let's see.
I can talk.
Oh, boy.
There it is.
I can talk.
We know that.
Spoke him up, right? I shouldn't have said anything, right? Kimmy, I should have just.
I'm like Beetlejuice. Don't say my name 3 times.
Oh, God. Oh,
it's
my
not Candyman.
God. It came more like Candyman, yeah. More like Candyman. That's funny.
5 times.
All right, Fastcart, tell people where they can find you, since your silhouette is there. Tell us where they can find you.
They can find me on twitter.com/fast_cart. I'll be on Miss Hart's show on That's My 80s, on the Base Radio, on Twitch on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, we'll be off next week. But I'll be on Table of Horrors on Wednesday and Friday. So check us out there.
All right, awesome. We are going to raid Vega SC.
Oh, nice.
Who says, come and hang out. They've got 42 viewers. You guys give a shout, say hello, send some love from Soul Citizens, and check them out and follow them if you see some cool stuff there. Let's see. I think that's it. We won't see you guys. Yeah.
I do have one last thing.
Make it last.
I do want to ask Colossal to give me that layaway plan, please.
Santulo, thanks for the follow.
Zantulo, thank you for the follow. All right, guys, we're going to...
20th, y'all.
Yep.
Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, November 20th. Be there. Get those LTIs lined up, those tokens lined up.
Support the game, guys. Support what they're doing at CIG. And if you've already got a good fleet and you're happy, just go around and have a good time, enjoy yourselves. Hopefully, Kimmy, I forgot to mention, we may decide to do some streaming next week. So if you guys come around this time, we may be in the game, wandering around the expo. So even though we're not going to do a show, we might be hanging out. So we'll see what it looks like. So look for us next Sunday. Maybe we'll be on, and who knows, you may run into us running around the expo center. Okay, let's go ahead and hit this raid. You guys take care. Peace, love, and soul. We're out of here.